right, so today's video is more for myself personally, and what it really boils down to is a simple concept that I often overlook. And I'm hoping this video will just make me more aware of it. Hi, and welcome to the BDM Perspective. My name is Brian, and thanks for tuning in. If you're new to this channel is meant to inspire and motivate myself and others to try new things and to look at things from a different perspective. If you like what you see, please think about liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so on this channel, we talk a lot about trying new things and starting something new. And so this simple concept can really be applied to anyone who's trying to learn something new or trying to gain a new healthy habit, such as maybe working out more, eating healthy, waking up a little bit earlier, or maybe you're trying to learn a new language, learn how to play a new instrument, or it can even be applied to someone who's trying to quit an addiction such as smoking or maybe drinking. And so what all of these things have in common is that they take time to develop, or they took time to develop, and they don't just happen instantly. And so what happens to a lot of us is that we fall off track. And why this happens is, for many of us, we set these really high expectations. And when we try to stack all these things upon each other, maybe we're trying to wake up early, hit the gym, eat as healthy as possible, then, do 5 hours of work and then try this other new thing. And we set these really high and lofty expectations, we're bound to fall off track. This is exactly what I do. I set these super high expectations of doing all these things at once. And what ends up happening is I either burn up or I simply don't do a few of those things that I try to accomplish. And what a lot of us end up doing is we beat ourselves up because we didn't meet these expectations. We didn't meet these expectations and scheduling that we had for doing these things. And we have this negative self-talk of, I can't do this, maybe I should stop. And we might stop for a period of time and get into this slump. And it might be for something just as simple as we may have not hit the gym that day or 2 days in a row. And so we feel terrible and we beat ourselves up just because of something as dumb as that. We can be extremely harsh on ourselves. We become our own worst critics. Creative artists and visionaries look at their work, their movies, their plays, their scripts, they listen to their songs, they look at their artwork, and they can always find something wrong with it. It is never perfect. And for a lot of us, that doesn't sound that bad. We're getting feedback, we're trying to improve upon our work, and that's a good thing. But what happens to a lot of us is that we overanalyze and we overly scrutinize. And we go over these things that really are quite meaningless, and we're really negative towards ourselves because it wasn't perfection. And we're looking for perfection in these things in which it really doesn't matter. We're still trying to improve, and we just become negative towards ourselves. The simple concept in all of this that I had recently learned is that you need to observe this failure or this time where you didn't quite meet these expectations that you had and not scrutinize yourself. Observe and not scrutinize. Observe what happened, learn from it, and move on. And so the idea of observe and not scrutinize came from an inspirational speaker, a motivational speaker named Ed Milet. He has a YouTube channel that is really great that I highly recommend. I would definitely go check it out afterwards. But what he is saying is to really look at what's happening in this situation where maybe you were trying to quit smoking or whatnot, and you started smoking after a few days. Well, observe what happened. Don't scrutinize yourself, and then continue on, move on, improve yourself again. After I heard that simple concept of observe and not scrutinize yourself, it really changed my perspective because it helped me figure out what I was doing during these situations where I wasn't quite meeting the standards I had set. And instead of beating myself up, because that's typically what happened, I would set these goals and then I would beat myself up for not achieving them. You know, you just observe and you acknowledge it and you learn from it and you just move on. This is a very simple concept, but it's absolutely true. And it's really helped me out recently this past month when I was trying to accomplish all these things and I fell short of them. And instead of being extremely negative towards myself, I had to remember to observe what happened, acknowledge it, learn from it, and not scrutinize myself and just move on from it. All right, so the second part of this is extremely important, and it's an important aspect to acknowledge. And it's to give yourself credit where credit is due. Acknowledge your wins and celebrate them. So, what this means is that acknowledge what you did that went right. And so, the first thing is that you changed a thought pattern. You thought about trying something new. You wanted to do this new habit, or you wanted to quit this new habit. You had the idea, then you implemented it. That's a win. You thought about trying something new. You wanted to better yourself. You wanted to quit this habit. And you probably maybe even did it for a couple of days. So maybe you stopped smoking for a couple of days. Maybe you tried learning a language for a couple of days. You probably learned something within that time as well. You probably learned a few new words along the way. And you probably maybe even learned a few tics that happen and why you want to smoke. The point is to remember that not everything went wrong during that period. You didn't completely fail. You didn't completely do terrible. There's things that went right. You learned things within that time and you tried these new things and you tried to get out of this pattern. So acknowledge your wins and celebrate them and know that the next part is just to continue on. So maybe you didn't meet your lofty expectations. Maybe you failed a few times. But it's important to note that you broke your pattern. You tried something new, and you probably did it for at least a couple of days. And you're making steps in the right direction. The next step after that is just to remember what Confucius said. It does not matter how slowly you move as long as you do not stop. So pick yourself up and just keep moving. This simple concept of observing yourself but not criticizing yourself is something I have to remind myself of constantly in order to not overly criticize myself and go down this path of a negative mindset. So I hope this helped you, and I hope you can now take a look at things from a different perspective. This has helped me quite a bit, and I think going back to it constantly will help me in the future as well. All right, so if you like this video, please think about liking and subscribing to the channel, and I hope to see you guys next time. Thanks.